The woke herd and the rabid leftists throw the word fascist around, such that it has become, like all the negative labels they apply to their opponents, a slur. A catch-all stigmatic title you never asked for, which is used to denigrate, marginalize, and silence you. The main problem with this tactic of misnomered articulation is similar to a great many other slurs that they use. Leftists do not know what the word means. The major tell confirming this assertion is that they employ the word fascist in the same way they apply nationalist outside of its proper context. You see, fascism is not the umbrella term that applies to authoritarianism and bigotry that they are erroneous in assuming that it is. Fascism was a very specific form of authoritarian nationalism in a very specific country, Italy, during a very specific era. The phrase coined in 1919, the National Fascist Party formed in 1921. Mussolini seized power in 1922. Opposition parties and media outlawed in 1924. Mussolini adopts the title of Il Duce in 1925. He was shot and the party lost power in 1943 in the midst of World War II. Opponents to fascism coined the term totalitarianism in opposition to the party, but Mussolini happily adopted it. Having been reared by anarchist parents, this was the political ideology he identified himself with in his youth. Given that black is the color of anarchism, this is why it was adopted by his black-shirted thugs who operated through mass gatherings and actions, intimidation and violence to shut down political and cultural opposition. Very similar to Antifa today. Historical anarchism opposes and smashes power while acknowledging the rights of their political and philosophical opponents at all costs, willing to protect the opposition's rights as vigorously as their own. Modern woke anarchism has adopted the same tactics used by Mussolini in the 1920s. Under the authority of Il Duce, the economy was organized under the purview of the state, similar to a socialist or a potential woke post-modernist society. Fascism makes the demand that the rights of the individual and his very identity be subservient and devoted to that of the common will, or in other words, the interests of the state, which can also be described as that of the group expanded to the national level. Sounds like the identity politics of LGBTQ and trans activism, like the cult of personality practiced by the Stalinist Russia and Maoist China examples that the woke herd are so desperate to grovel before the throne of, doesn't it? But the authoritarian left knows nothing of these historical details. This is by design. The grandmasters of the globalist chess game being played have determined that their street soldiers should remain ignorant of history generally. It's said that those who don't study history are doomed to repeat it. I find more relevancy in rephrasing this maxim by saying that those who are not versed in history will not recognize when the villains are at it again. Or better yet, when they are the villains themselves. This is the very thesis of my argument. Members of the left don't even know what a fascist is. If they did, they wouldn't use the pejorative at all, as it defines them more accurately than anyone else. Better yet, if they knew what fascism was, they would do what they always do with inconvenient terms. Change the definition to suit their practice of eternal mental gymnastics. So, How do we respond when leftist totalitarians attempt to crack the master's whip to discredit us with their slurs? With the simplest of questions, by exposing their ultimate lack of historical and social comprehension and the basic lobotomized nature of their belief structure by posing the following queries. 1. What is the seminal and foundation treatise of the Fascist Party? 2. Who authored it and co-authored it and when? 3. In what country did they gain power and in what year? 4. Who led the fascist state? What was his title? How did he gain power? 5. What war provided the pathway to the creation of the fascist state? 6. What were fascism's basic political platforms or pillars? 7. What was the name of the militant supporters of the leader? 8. How did fascism end? In what war? And what countries were its allies? 9. What happened to fascism's leader after his downfall? In what year? And if this discussion takes place on social media, follow it up with one more comment. I won't know if you had to Google the answers, but you will. Indeed, you should make sure you know the answers yourself. It's by exposing the ignorance of the woke herd that we can reveal to them exactly what they are. The woke herd, directed by the shepherd's crook of the billionaire class, chewing on the cud of a useless, inconsistent, uneducated, destructive, and hateful ideology, as intellectually docile as Hindu cattle. What do I know? I'm just some punk who cares.